Hello, this is Franklin McMahon from the CreativeCow.net podcast and also from MediaArtist.com. So here's what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about podcasts and creating a podcast. This is a three-part series. This first video is actually making the podcast. We're going to create it, record it, export it to MP3, and also tag it. And then the next one, we're going to go through RSS encoding and finally promotion in the last video. But the first one, we're going to actually create the actual show. We're going to do a very, very short show. Now, if you're a media professional, you can certainly use tons of programs to record your podcast and do music and all this other stuff. We're going to keep it very basic, and this is really just to get you up and rolling in creating a podcast. So we're going to use Audacity. The reason I picked that is because a lot of people use it. It's open source, it's free, it's available for Windows and Mac and Linux. So just you can download it, do a quick search. You can see the address right there, actually. Now, also when you download it, do one thing and grab this, the lame MP3 encoder. I don't know who came up with that name, lame, but it's pretty lame? No. But it's a very, actually, widely, hugely used MP3 encoder, and it is available free, and it works great. So also download that, and it'll actually download a little file. This is it right here. And when you install Audacity, it will actually look for this file so you can export MP3. It's all explained on the website, so you can definitely check that out. So this is Audacity, and we're going to, first of all, we're going to record the show. I'm going to let me get my my radio voice going, or my podcast voice, as it were, and let's hit record. Hi, this is Franklin McMahon. We have a very short show for you today. In fact, we're out of time, and thanks for joining us. All right, so there's the show. Let's listen to it back. Hi, this is Franklin McMahon. We have a very short show for you. Okay, there we go. So we've created our podcast. Hey, that was easy. Hey, who knew it would take that? Who knew it would be that quick? So we're going to export it, but before we do that, let's do one quick check under Preferences. Now, in file format, you can look at the MP3 export setup, and it has lame. Now, I've already installed this. Now, the bitrate, that's up to you. You can actually do up to 320, which is probably, oh, no, it's almost going off the screen there. 128 is good for music. You can usually get away with 80, even 64 if it's just voice. So I'm going to stick with 80 for this one. All right, I'm going to click OK. Now, we're going to export as an MP3. Now, when you create a podcast, you want to create a descriptive title for your file because you're going to be doing a lot of shows. You want to number them. You want to make sure people know what they are because if they're in their MP3 player on their hard drive, they have a folder. It can get really, if you just put show 1, you're going to run into a lot of trouble. So I'm going to put just Franklin Show, and I'm going to put show 1. And then I could put like 2006. So that's episode 1. I'm going to do 000 actually. So that tells what the show is, what the number is, episode 1, and the year. So I'm just going to click Save. And now this allows you to actually add some tags within Audacity. We're actually going to do this outside of the program. So for now, you can do this in the program, but I'm actually going to show you in a different program which has a little more features. So I'm going to click OK to bypass this for now. And we just saved it. So I'm going to slide this over here so you guys can see it. So there's the show. Now everything's all set. The only thing we need to do next is to really set the tagging, which we skipped over, and we're going to actually use a different program. Let me pull this up. And this is MP3 Tag Tools, and all these you can search on the web and find them pretty easily. There's the info right there for that. Now I'm going to actually go to File, Open Directory. And I'm going to start in this directory, which is just the desktop. Now it's already showing me the MP3. Now as you can see here, there are options to put lyrics and the picture and all this other stuff. We're going to actually do, now there's two types of tags. Version 2 is a little bit newer, version 1 is a little bit older. I'm going to do a little more of the generic older version 1. It doesn't really matter. You should do both if you have the time to put in tags for both. So I'm going to put Franklin Show. And I'm going to put Franklin McMahon, which is me. And then for album, you know what? I'm going to put CreativeCow.net. and we can put the year and the genre, and you can actually, you know, add a lot of stuff to this. So now I'm going to actually write the tags by clicking that. So it just saved all these tags to this particular file. We're going to do one more thing. We're going to go to Picture. We're going to load Picture, and I happen to have a well, let's use the cow logo actually for this. Hey, there's the cow logo. And I'm going to write this tag. This is actually assigning this graphic to this MP3 file. And write tag right there. So let's minimize this, and our file is right here.
Hi,
now,
this is Franklin McMahon.
Hey,
we have a very short
there I
show
am.
for you today. In fact,
so let me just show you quickly what happened here. When you create an MP3 file, normally it doesn't have all these tags, and it isn't searchable, and it can get lost on people's hard drives. But I've actually created the name of the show, and this is just Windows Media Player, and this will pop up in iTunes anywhere you're playing it, and also on the iPod. Actually, you'll see this graphic, you'll see this information. So I put the artist name, the name of the show, and I've tagged the actual graphic for the show. Now these little extra steps I think are very important, because especially with people dealing with a lot of podcasts, it just makes it a little easier to figure out who's what, and the stuff shows up immediately in an MP3 player. It looks at the tags and it shows the artist name and the show name and the graphic if you have an MP3 player that supports graphics. So this stuff is very, very important. So, and that's pretty much it. We have a podcast that is nicely tagged as far as file name goes, and also it has all this information so people know where it's coming from. You can add your URL and all this other stuff in there too. So that's the first part. Recording, again, you can use all these different programs to record podcasts. Obviously you can use Adobe Audition, Soundtrack Pro, lots of programs, but this is a nice free program, Audacity, which is very handy to use. And I would suggest starting out very small. When you're starting your podcast, just start off maybe just your voice and your thoughts, and do episode 1 and create it, export it, encode it to a file size that's small enough to download pretty quickly. Do the tags, do the graphics, and also do the text so people know what it is. And then you are rolling and you are in business. Okay, next video, the next part of the series, we're going to go to the RSS feeds. Now this is the feed which is the XML that tells people how to get the show. So you've created the show is all created, it's ready to go. How are you going to let people know where to get this, and how can they subscribe to it? And we'll cover that in the next video. But for now, my name is Franklin McMahon, and we'll see you soon.